Welcome to yet another exciting edition of Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network. On this edition of the program, 15,000 athletes to compete in a sports festival. Coming from the wall of tennis, Sina inspires Italy to Davis Cup semi-final. Guardiola extends City contract. Details of these and many more will be yours when we return from the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network. Kingsley Emmanuel is here.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Shay. Very happy to be here this morning.
Of course, it starts from the local scene, and it has to do with the military games that is brought in the military across Africa to unite in what has been addressed as insecurity and other threats on the continent being appropriately taken care of through sports. We understand the president of the country, Tinubu, gave the charge when he actually declared open the second edition of the African Military Games in Abuja just about 24 hours ago.
Yeah, of course. I think for me it's a welcome development, saying the fact that, of course, Nigeria is hosting the second edition of the military games. Of course, the main focus is to see how to curb, insecurity in the country, and as well gain more ideas on how to, tackle some challenges, of course, when it has to do with insecurity. But for me, I think since it's a sport, it also gears towards that part where we can also, churn out talent. Probably any of these military guys, can at the end of the day, venture into sport or probably have a very good performance in any of the sport they participate in. And that could also be an opportunity where maybe any of them as well could see that room of, maybe engaging in any sport, fully. In the past, of course, just like we mentioned the other day, we normally see talents being churned out, from the military games like this, likes of Choma, Joa, and the rest of them, of course, were also discovered in military games like this. So for me, I think it's a good one, despite it being the focus being the fact that they have to look forward to see how to tackle insecurity. But I think it's also a platform where, we can also look at for the best as well in the different competitions that we played.
In a bid to tackle insecurity across Africa, the second edition of the military games taking place in Abuja is out there not just on competition on the sport, but at least sharing ideas on how to foster security across Africa. 1,625 military men and women involved in sports, and collective ideas coming through as well in the spirit of sportsmanship. Kingsley, can we discover, like you mentioned, Choma Juma that can go to the Olympic Games, and make the country proud?
What a very huge number, of course, you say. Talking about the athletes that will be participating in this one. And for me, I think having that huge number actually, creates that room where we can as well, fish out talents, from this particular. We can't just have, that huge number. At the end of the day, all of them just go back, and without even, without we discovering something out of this huge number. So for me, I think it's also a platform, like I mentioned, despite the fact that it's a platform where they want to look at for means, to tackle insecurity. There's high level of insecurity in the country, and I think for me it's a good initiative, but it's also a platform where we can look at for the next Choma Joe. It's been a long time where athletes, of course, or talent has been discovered, from the military game. So I think this is another opportunity where, you know, some of this federation, you talk about the Athletic Federation of Nigeria, you talk about, you know, let's say basketball federation, even the football federation as well. You know, they can go out there and see what they can be able to do to see if they can possibly, you know, turn out talent from. Talent definitely, of course, will be in this particular one. And I think it's then time for the different heads of the federation we have to go in and also see how to spot our talents.
Military men and women across Africa gathered in Abuja for a couple of days that will produce, hopefully, another Choma Ajunwa. Remember, she celebrated a hurdler who won medal for Nigeria, not just on the continent, but in the world as well. Choma Ajunwa, I'm sure, should be in this game trying to see whether there's somebody who can come up just the same way she did. Meanwhile, let's now move on straight to the other stories we have. Kingsley, the former chairman of the local organizing committee of the postponed 2024 sports festival, Bukola Olakpade, of course, you know, he's now the Director General of the National Sports Commission. He says between 12,000 to 50,000 sportsmen and women are expected to participate in the 22nd National Sports Festival billed for next year in Ogun State, January to be specific.
Yes, for me, I think, you know, quite a huge number you see down there. And for me, it's not just, you know, gathering this huge number of athletes, but providing, you know, adequate security, proper welfare, you know, accommodation, of course, for them. Because most of the time, we normally hear about, you know, athletes, you know, facing challenges of accommodation, not being properly taken care of, you know, of course, in the camp down there. So for me, I think we take a look at the fact that this particular National Sport Festival was supposed to hold this year, but it was postponed, you know, down to January 2025. I think that the organizers, they've tried to see how to make sure that they provide, you know, adequate, you know, level of, you know, security and welfare, you know, for the athlete. According to the chief organizer, he said that they're trying to create a room whereby all the athletes can actually stay in one place, just like we used to see in the Olympic Village. For me, I think it would be a good idea, you know, seeing that as well being implemented down here in the National Sport Fair. The National Sport Fair is just like, you know, our National Olympics, so it must be put in a way that, you know, people outside the country will love what we're doing down here. So for me, I think it's a very impressive one. We hope that all of this preparation that has been put in place, of course, will definitely yield fruit, you know, when the competition starts.
Olakpade, chairman of National Sports Festival Organizing Committee, recently appointed as Director General of the National Sports Commission, must do his best to ensure that Ogun State hosts the rest of Nigeria come January next year for the National Sports Festival. Beyond accommodation, I'm sure other facilities are being put in place as well. Now, let's bring you some cricket story. Kingsley, Nigeria's men's senior cricket team coach, Steve Dikolo, has announced his final 14-man squad for the 2026 ICC, that is International Cricket Council T20 World Cup Sub-Regional Qualifiers C, which will be played in Abuja from the 23rd, that is just about tomorrow, to the 28th of November. What are the chances of Team Nigeria in this one?
I think, of course, when you take a look at the growth of cricket stand here in Nigeria, you want to give Team Nigeria that chance, the opportunity of going very far in this particular one. You take a look at the players that have been, you know, selected. They were actually selected from a pool of 18 players, and I think, of course, definitely these 14 players that have been selected are the best, you know, players that could definitely put up that impressive performance. Yes, we're going to be facing countries like Eswatini. They talk about Botswana, you know, Ivory Coast. I understand these are countries that also have that little bit of pedigree when it has to do with cricket down here in Africa. But
there's Senelina and Sierra Leone as well.
I think for me that won't be a very tough task, you know, for the Nigerian cricket side. When you take a look at the growth of cricket so far in the country under Uyapata, you want to say that, of course, we stand in that very strong position of contending with these other African countries. So for me, I'm hoping to see a very impressive performance, you know, from Team Nigeria at this point in time. The manager, about Sylvester, I think has done his best, and also we're seeing what he has been able to do so far with the Nigerian side. So we look forward to see the best as well, you know, from the Nigerian cricket team.
Nigerian cricket team is expected to feature Selim Salu, of course, Daniel Ajeku as well. We have a player in the squad who has just returned from club duties in Zimbabwe. 18 players invited to come there, and we hope this competition will get underway tomorrow. Will read out the very best you can get. Now, let's look at Formula One. Lewis Hamilton says he will give it absolutely everything for his final 3 races of the season with Mercedes, despite feeling like walking away after struggling badly at the Sao Paulo Grand Prix held in Brazil.
He has to. He has to. The man has not really gotten a very impressive performance for years now. I think about 2 or 3 years now. Since the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, which he lost to Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton has dropped in terms of form. I don't know much about his level of confidence as it stands now. The man has not really shown progress for some time now. If you take a look at the fact that I understand that the Mercedes car somehow is not really at its best, just like we used to see. But we expect a driver like Lewis Hamilton to be able to put up a very impressive performance. One man that has won the title for 7 times. You will see, of course, he's a brilliant driver, and at any point in time, no matter how bad the car is, he should be able to navigate his way through. But you take a look at it, it's been an abysmal season so far for the man Lewis Hamilton. The next 3 races remaining, we just hope that he's going to give his best, because earlier he promised that he was going to do his best for Mercedes before he leaves. Don't forget, next season he'll be joining Ferrari, so he's not going to be with Mercedes next season. That's why he said he wants to give his best, and we expected more from him, especially this being his last season at Mercedes. But best so far hasn't been good enough. But we hope that in this last 3 races that is remaining, he'll be able at least maybe probably win one of them, and as well put up a very impressive performance before he leaves Mercedes. He's one man that should probably live on the high, but so far so good. Things hasn't been that rosy for Lewis Hamilton, but we'll just look forward to see how the remaining 3 races will look like for the man.
Is it about Mercedes or about Hamilton?
I think for me, if you take a look at it, it's about the Mercedes somehow. Yes, Mercedes should be the issue, because if you take a look at it at some point, they dropped in terms of their engine level. The likes of Red Bull overtook them in terms of level of engine. Even talk about Ferrari, and as well you talk about the other constructors as well that have also been coming up, talking about the London Norris team. They've also stepped up in terms of their car and all of that. But I think next season everything of course will tend to balance in terms of engine and all of that, and then we'll see what Mercedes is made of. So if you take a look at it, somehow you attribute the poor performance of Lewis Hamilton to the Mercedes car not being that very fantastic. The man has been complaining for some time now, but I don't think anything much has been done, and that's why we're seeing the struggle. Even George Russell, the second driver for Mercedes, also has been struggling at this point. So for me, I think the Mercedes should step up their engine and as well prepare for the next season.
Mercedes needs to step up their engine and, of course, do prepare for next season. We'll take a break. When we return from the break, we'll look at tennis, and we can tell you with surety that Yannick Sinner has taken his country, Italy, to the semi-finals of the Davis Cup. And in football, welcome back. It's Sports Talk here on the Lighting Television Network. Kingsley Emmanuel is still here, and together we'll bring you up to speed with the latest happening around the world of sports. Now let's look at tennis, Kingsley. Yannick Sinner has inspired the reigning champion Italy to a very strong comeback victory over Argentina in the Davis Cup semi-final against, we've seen. What do you make of it? Is it about Yannick Sinner or the quality of the opposition?
For me, I think if you take a look at it, it's about Yannick Sinner. He's the most informed tennis player right now, and playing with such a player definitely will give that level of confidence. We saw that brilliant performance.
This is the world number 1.
Yeah, world number 1. We saw that brilliant performance and combination between him and Matteo Berrettini, who is also an Italian player. So they had a very impressive performance yesterday against Argentina. And for me, you take a look at the fact that Yannick Sinner had been very fantastic. Just came back from winning the ATP final and getting down to the Davis Cup as well. and putting up this level of performance. I think for me, it's about Yannick Sinner. He's the most informed tennis player, and being on the court, of course, posed a lot of threats, to opponents, and that's also that impressive performance, of course, from him leading the Italian side, of course, to this level in the Davis Cup. I think for me, it's a very impressive one for the man. It is this season where you take a look at his level of performance and what he's been able to achieve. And when you see a player on that level of confidence, it's difficult for that player, of course, to step down in terms of performance, especially in tennis. And that's what we're seeing Yannick Sinner doing this year. Doing it this year, and as well, for the Italian side. So for me, it was a very impressive performance from them yesterday.
Impressive performance coming from Italy, and now they have Australia to contend with in the semi-final. Italy versus Australia in the semi-final, world #1 featuring in this one. What can we expect? Australia good enough to stop the world #1 in tennis taking his country to the final again?
I don't think so. I don't think they have that. I don't think they have what it takes, to stop Yannick Sinner and his, colleague, as it stands. Yeah, but Matteo Berrettini. It's going to be a very tough one from what we've seen them done, from how they've played. They've been a very good,
Australia, they were able to take out the United States of America.
Yes, and that calls for concern as well, looking at their level of, performance as well. But I think Italy, they've done, enough, especially when you take a look at the performance of Yannick Sinner and Matteo Berrettini so far. I think it's not going to be that rosy, for the Australians. It's going to be a very tough one because we take a look at the fact that you have the most informed player in Italy, and as well Matteo Berrettini assisting him down there. So it's become very difficult, for the Australians. But we'll just keep our fingers crossed and see what that particular encounter will look like. But I think with the form of Yannick Sinner, he might want to wrap up the year as well with the Davis Cup title. There
is the other semi-final pairing between Germany. What do you make of Germany up against their opponent in this one? Can they stop it?
For me, I think Germany also on another side that also have been a little bit fantastic, as well in this one.
Championship out there in Turin. Meanwhile, we go to football now, Kingsley. The leagues are back after the international break. All the players are back to their respective club side, both injured and fitter players. But first, let's look at what will happen here in Nigeria. There was no international break for Premier League players here in Nigeria. But we understand there will be postponement, we say an indefinite postponement of the encounter between Abia Warriors and Enyimba International.
Yeah, of course, it's actually needed at this point in time because Enyimba will be in
Kano Pillars versus Enyimba International.
Yes, Enyimba will be in action against their opponents in the CAF Confederation Cup. So they have to go prepare, for that particular one. That's why, of course, that game, of course, has been postponed. I think for me, it's a good one. We look forward to see what Enyimba will be able to do. I think they are the only side remaining in the continent at this point in time, and they have to be given that attention. They have to be given that time, to prepare as it stands. So for me, I think it was a good move to postpone that one to enable them, prepare for their continental assignment. And I think for me, Enyimba should step up. So far, so good. You take a look at it. Take a look at our performance in the league. Has not been that really fantastic. I think the new coach of the side, talking about Olarewaju, is seeing how to, blend his team, give them that rhythm on the pitch of play and all of that. But take a look at the performance we've seen so far. I think Enyimba really have to step up if they want to go far, in the CAF Confederation Cup this time, because it promises to be very, very hectic for them down there. So we just hope for the best for them. It's been a long time we've seen Enyimba going very far, when it has to do with the continental games. Since they won the CAF Champions League, so that was in 2003 and 2004. It has been, a net success syndrome thing for Enyimba. We hope that under Olarewaju and Kanu Nwankwo, the chairman of the side, they could be able to replicate that form we saw years back.
Well, I'm sure the fans out there in Kano will be disappointed. Every encounter between Enyimba and Kano Pillars is always thrilling, especially in Kano there. I remember watching a couple of games involving two sides in Kano, and you wonder whether Enyimba International was playing at home, going by the number of supporters they find in Kano. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Premier League has announced a new date for the match day 13th fixture between Heartland and Rangers. We understand the encounter was initially billed to take place this Sunday will now be played on the 24th. That is tomorrow and not on Sunday anymore. This is what looks like, of course, it is the Oriental Derby. And this match is slated for the Dananyam Stadium in Owerri.
Yeah, it promises to be an exciting one. We understand that Rangers, of course, they had some hitches coming back, of course, after having that big pardon Heartland. They have some hitches after that encounter against Kano Pillars, where they at least they were able to get a way point. They played 2-2 draw in that game. So coming back, we heard they had a little bit of issues. So they have to at least come back and rest and get themselves prepared for the encounter this Sunday. It promises to be an exciting one. You take a look at the fact that Emmanuel Monike has now been able to revive Heartland side as it stands, and as well Rangers under Fidelis Ilechuku, who has also been very fantastic. At least they've stepped up their game. You take a look at they are now fourth on the log, not too far from the league leaders Remo Stars. It means Rangers still have that opportunity of retaining the title they won last time if they continue to maintain course from the Nigerian National League down to the NPFL. They've been contending strongly, but this season seems to be a very, very poor one for them. I think about March the 13th, they are way bottom, down the table. That is not the kind of performance, or kind of position we should be seeing Bender Insurance, at this point in time. And that's why, Monday Diggy decided to put up his resignation letter due to heavy criticism, on him. I was seeing, coaches in the NPFL, put up this gesture. Last time we saw this was Kennedy Boboye, who did it with Sunshine Stars, looking at the poor performance from Sunshine Stars, and as well management interfering in his affairs. He has to also put up that resignation letter. So Monday Diggy is the second coach in the NPFL this season who has also put up his resignation letter due to backlashes and much criticism from management and fans of the team.
Well, let's hope that Monday Diggy's resignation will bring a better fortune. We understand his assistant, Igunovia, Greg Igunovia, has taken over there, and let's hope that you have some good results going forward. And talking about good results, they may not have won it, but they have a chance of getting the bronze medal. Edo Queens in the 2024 CAF Women's Champions League, took on their counterparts from Massa FC of Egypt in the third place fixture. Will take on their counterparts today. What can they salvage something from this one? They were looking like going straight into the final, but they were stopped. Can they at least take something back home? They have done so well, in my opinion.
They have to. They have to look for it. They have to look for every means to take something back home. At this point in time, they would have been in the final if not that lackluster performance we saw at the 9 minutes of that game against TP Masempe. We would have been talking about Edo Queens being in the final at this point in time. But what happened has happened. They have to play the third place game against FC Massa of Egypt. Don't forget, they actually drew against this FC Massa of Egypt, of course, in the group stage of the competition. And now they are meeting again at this point in time. And I think Edo Queens should be able to bring out their best, to see how they can at least finish, in the third position. Finishing in that third position will really help them because of the huge, prize money they were taking back home in that particular one. So for me, against FC Massa, they should do their best to make sure that, they get, that needed result. If you take a look at it, they're one of the best teams, in this CAF Women's Champions League this season. You take a look at their performance, how they were able to, of course, to take out the defending champion, taken about Memolodi Sundown, heading down to TP Masempe. They were leading that game, not on the late minute of that one where they lost composure. And as well, we saw that own goal, and as well, the other goal came, from TP Masempe. So for me, I think they have what it takes to beat FC Massa today and take up that third place position.
Now, well, the Nigerian girls are looking forward to at least getting to the bronze medal. Kisley, this is the fourth edition of the competition across Africa, and we've never seen a Nigerian side play in the final. Has it anything to do with the quality of female football from Nigeria at the continent?
Truly, yes. I think it is. But if you take a look at it, the Super Falcons of Nigeria seem to be the best in Africa. But in terms of continental games like this, we do not see the best, from our girls. You take a look at the way the Nigerian Women Football League is organized, not really that top-notch. Not like the South African Women Football League. Yes, not like the Egyptian Women Football League.
Or the Congolese.
The Congolese as well. So there's much gap, when it has to do with league organization. breeding talent, and all of that. It is not the same at all. Even the players we have in the Super Falcons, most of them are mostly hero breed. They come from outside the country to come play for the Super Falcons. We don't even have much of home-based players in the Super Falcons of Nigeria. That's been the reason. So for me, I think if you take a look at the way South Africa, they've actually modeled their league, their female football league, Egypt, you talk about Morocco, and the rest of them, way different from what we're doing at this point in time. And that's why it looks difficult for we to be able to compete when it has to do with this competition at a very high level at this point in time. So for me, I think we should do a lot when it has to do with the female football league down here in Nigeria, or else we'll continue to struggle at the continental stage.
Struggle for the African, just the Nigerian teams at the continent. We hope we can organize our league better and do get the best out of it. Meanwhile, France has unveiled their squad for the Super Falcons friendly encounter this weekend. Kisley, what do you make of it? A 30 players squad for the international friendly was just named only yesterday against the Super Falcons of Nigeria. We've talked about they've at least been populated by foreign-based players, so they should be able to stand up against their French counterparts.
It promises to be an exciting one. At least these are kind of friendlies we expect Super Falcons to play. Looking at the fact that the WAFCON is just by the corner, and they have to, of course, start playing some of these friendlies to get themselves prepared. Don't forget, the coach Randy Wardrum is no longer with them. They have a new manager.
His manager is French, and do you think that's why we have a French?
News yesterday was not good for some teams, especially teams like Arsenal Football Club. Manchester City, they've been giving them trouble of winning the league. They would have won the league last season, but they finished second due to the progress of Manchester City. So it's really a problem. Pep is a problem, in England. It has
positive problem, right?
Positive problem, in England. He's even turned the league into a farmers' league where he wins the title every season. Even this season is not far from winning it as well, despite the fact that, yes, in their last 4 games, they've not been very fantastic. So, for me, as it stands now, it's actually a good one. He said yesterday that Manchester City have been so good to him that he has gotten everything, he gets everything he wants, from the team. So comfortable, and as well, his players are also responding to his instruction. I think for me, it's a better place for him to stay. 2 years, a long one, and that's to say that, Pep, of course, standard chance of winning more titles